And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Sports Analyst Podcast. I'm Jared. This is Jessa. As you can tell, we're just wearing whatever we want because it's the bye week. We're feeling chill. I don't know. I'm feeling chill. How are you feeling, Jessa?
Yeah, it's fall. Like you've got your fall dew on. I've got my fall colors. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
It's so funny. Bye weeks, just the stress goes down, you
It's
know?
crazy.
We
It's
can't
crazy.
lose. It's
There's
crazy.
no losing in the bye week, but maybe there is. We'll get into it. With it being BYU's bye week, we're going to go for a shorter episode today. We are going to explain all of the games that matter this weekend because even though BYU is not playing anybody, there are still many, many games that will impact BYU's future, as we'll get into later. But before we get into that, Jessa, there is one quick question from the YouTube chat from Round D. Out of our last few games, which one are you most concerned about? Which game will Jared have to sit down and watch? I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be sitting down and watching all of these because they're all important. We didn't think the Kansas game was going to be a sit down and watch game, and we lost. So we've learned our lesson. We are going to be locked and loaded for every single game. But Jessa, which one is most concerning to you?
I would say Cincinnati. Just because, like you
Okay.
said, at the beginning of last year, we thought certain games were going to be tough, like the Arizona State game, right? At the beginning of the season, we were like, oh, that's pencil in a W. Like,
Yep.
that's an old Pac-12 team. We're good. And then you get to the end of the season, you're like, oh, this team's actually legit. It's on the road. Probably a day game, like if I'm just expecting the worst, like it's
Yep.
probably going to be a day game at this point. Um, so yeah, I would say Cincinnati, just because it's a must win. Like we have to beat Cincinnati. And this is
Yep.
all assuming that Texas Tech is going to be very hard to beat.
Yes.
Like it's a must win, and it wasn't at the beginning of the season. What would you say? What's your scare meter going to?
My scare meter, okay. Texas Tech, Cincinnati, TCU, UCF. Okay, and here's
Interesting,
my reasoning,
TCU.
okay? We know we're concerned about Texas Tech. We know we're concerned about Cincinnati. What is right in between those? A sleepy home game versus a team that is good, but not like championship contender level good. So I'm really worried about whether we win or lose against Texas Tech. I think TCU is going to be some sort of emotional letdown / look ahead. I think if we lose to Texas Tech, I'm far less worried about TCU. But for some reason, I've got this feeling that the Texas Tech game might go well for us. And so that leads me to worry greatly about TCU coming off of a huge win and looking ahead to our next game the next week. So for me, it's TCU. That's the one that I'm most concerned about.
I hope that the BYU locker room is not like me, thinking like me, because I'm not even gonna lie to you. I totally looked at, like, as I was looking at this, I'm like, the season is Texas Tech and Cincinnati. That's it. That's the season, right?
Yep.
So I really hope the locker room isn't thinking the same thing, because that is a classic trap game.
It is a classic. It is the classic trap game.
Yeah.
It is the Kansas game last year.
Yeah. So you just gotta one game at a week, one game at a time, 1-0. We have 12 Super Bowls. That's what we've got to be thinking in our head.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Drill it in there, Kalani.
yep. Okay, all of them, all four. That's my final answer. All four are scary.
All four are very concerning.
Yes.
All right. So, BYU's on a bye week. This means we get a full weekend of college football just to kick back and enjoy the chaos. But this is also the month. This is November 1st. You're listening to this on Halloween. November 1st is this weekend. This is the month where the Weekend Watch Guide was born, okay? This is where it really starts to get intense. This is where we start rooting for teams, rooting for and against teams that are going to affect BYU because BYU is in the thick of the Big 12 championship race. They're in the thick of the playoff race. Again, don't care about the playoff, okay? Me, first person to say it. I hate the playoff. I'm done. I don't care. I'll watch if BYU's in it, but I don't care. But regardless, it is important that we look at the grand scope of things and root for things that will help BYU in the long run. And Jessa, what is it that we want for BYU in the long run?
In the long run, it looks like if you make it to at least it's tracking like, if you make it to the conference championship game in the Big 12 this year, with have 1 or 2 losses. If you make it there, you make it to the playoff. Or you just, honestly, to your point, take the playoff away, right? Let's pretend the playoff didn't exist and it was only the top 4 teams, and that's out of the question for BYU. Let's just say that this is 2023, 2022, and we're just wanting to get to a New Year's Six bowl game. Let's just say that, okay?
Yeah.
For funsies. Um, the first step to doing that is making your conference championship game. We just want BYU to do well at the end of the season, right? And
Yep.
whether it's a New Year's Six, whether it's playoffs, whatever, how can we reach our ceiling the best?
Yep.
And we're going to talk about games that influence BYU, but I want this to be clear. And Matt brought it up in Sports Analysts. We just need to beat the hell out of anybody who's on our schedule. And
Yep.
we will get, we just need to take care of business, and none of this matters. None of this matters if you don't lose.
100%.
Then you're fine. So that's almost where I want to end the conversation. Be like, we just need to win out, but that's not realistic. And also not very fun.
That's for the team. Our mindset
Yes.
can be all this extra stuff.
Very
the team
true.
is just focused on beating the hell out of whoever we're playing this week.
Yes.
We as fans get to do this puzzle, putting the puzzle together stuff.
Yep. And also it's BYU, so we know we're going to have to face these facts at some point, okay?
Yes.
Also,
Yes.
it's fun to think about on a bye week. So let's run through some games that affect BYU. We'll kind of go through these. So what do you want to start us off with?
I'll start it off with, let me disclaimer. The weekend watch guide will be out when you're listening to this. I will send it out. I know I've forgotten in the past, but I'm going to send it out. So that will have the full breakdown of all the information. Me and Jess are just going to rattle through the top hitters, the games, what you need to root for. Okay, but check out the weekend watch guide for the full breakdown. Game number 1 is Arizona State at Iowa State. Now, Jessa, this is a game between 2 teams that aren't necessarily playing for the conference championship right now. Each of them have 3+ losses in conference, right? Yes, 3+ losses in
Arizona
conference.
State is 3-2,
Arizona State is
actually.
2, but Iowa State has 3 now. That's right.
Yep.
But regardless, neither of these teams are in that top tier of championship contenders in the Big 12. So why does this game matter? Why are we rooting for this?
This is a good question. Why are we rooting? Who are we rooting for? I would say, well, actually, Jared, tell us about the tiebreaker rules in the Big 12, because that influences who we want to win this game, right?
Yes.
Last year with Iowa State obviously went and we didn't. We had the same record. What was the tiebreaker there?
The tiebreaker that it came down to was number 4 or 5 on the list, and it was your conference strength of schedule, or the combined record of your conference opponents that you played in that season. So BYU played Houston and Oklahoma State and Kansas. All of those teams had a losing record in conference, and so BYU's strength of schedule was weaker than that of Iowa State, which meant instead. Can you hear me? It just
say that one more time. Repeat that last part one more time.
Boy. Everything broke. Everything is broken.
One moment. We're pausing,
is
everybody.
going on?
Technical difficulties. Now, cue the intro music. Okay, go.
I was playing with my AirPods, so that's probably why. Putting those down.
Nice.
I need a fidget spinner while I talk about BYU. So it's important because Iowa State beat BYU on their combined conference opponents record, right? We do not play Arizona State. We do play Iowa State. So we need Iowa State to win this game to make our conference strength of schedule higher rated. And there's many situations in which this comes into play. We'll get into more of those later, but the main thing you need to know is that any team that BYU has beaten or will beat in conference needs to win against other teams that BYU does not play.
Yep. Okay,
Makes
that's
sense?
a great rundown. Yep, totally. Makes sense. So that's one factor for why we want Iowa State to win. The other is it puts Arizona State at 3 conference losses, effectively kicking them out of the conference championship game. So we want less teams at the top in that running. And you never know, a bunch of teams could go and lose, and then all of a sudden we're in a 2-way tie, or a 4-way tie with a bunch of teams with 2 losses. So yeah, double reasons to root for Iowa State in this game. And honestly, it's at home. They're getting healthier and healthier. Sam Levitt is not playing in this game. So should be a
Dub
happy
for Iowa State.
Yeah. Yeah, should be a happy watch, hopefully. Knock on wood.
Yep.
So,
Next game up is Texas Tech at Kansas State. Now, if you are following along, let's do the maths in our heads, okay? Texas Tech, BYU plays Texas Tech next week. Kansas State, they're not on BYU's schedule, so who are we rooting for here? Texas Tech. However, this is a game where I classically say I want this to go to 10 overtimes and Texas Tech to win on like a last second bullcrap 2 point conversion that has them playing into like the middle of the night and they get no sleep and all their players are injured.
yeah. This we also need Texas Tech to win, and I hate that we're in this situation, but we need the Big 12 to look as good as possible. So we need Texas Tech to be good. And SEC
Great
doesn't get
point.
that luxury. Big 10, I mean, it doesn't bear that burden, right? SEC gets the luxury of not having to deal with that. Same with the Big
Absolutely.
10, maybe on a lower level. Like the SEC is up here, the Big 10 is next, and then the ACC is next, and then the Big 12. Like if we're just being honest as far as
No, yeah,
respect goes.
it's true.
Like why is Georgia Tech ranked above us? They play in the same conference as Miami. That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we need Texas Tech to be good. As sucky as that is, like we need them to be good. We need to get game day on our game day, and we need more eyes for the conference.
Absolutely, which plays into our next game as well, which is obviously very straightforward, but it's Cincinnati at Utah. Obviously, we're rooting for Cincinnati because on the list of things, on the hierarchy of things you root for as a BYU fan, it goes BYU, okay, right here at 1A next to it, whoever is playing Utah. So we always want Utah to lose. I don't care if that kicks us out of the national championship or whatever. I want Utah to lose every single game. But also, this is important because, and this is something that Kevin brought up in Sports Analyst, you need Cincinnati to be as highly ranked as possible when we play them at the week before Thanksgiving because recency bias is so huge in the committee's eyes. Like, just think of the national media. Who remembers that Florida State beat Alabama by 2 touchdowns and Florida State has gone on to lose like 6 games? Absolutely no one remembers that. No one gives a rat's patootie about that, okay? So we need all of our best wins to be at the end of the season.
Speaking of, did you see the tweet that went viral that an SEC numbers guy, I think is his tag.
Oh boy.
Um, he said my speaker just changed. That's awesome.
Sick.
We're good. Oh my gosh, so many technical difficulties. One moment. Okay, we're back.
Resume. We're back.
Resume. Intro music, cue. Yeah, Cincinnati needs to be at a high level. I can't remember what I was saying.
SEC numbers guy.
Okay, thank you, SEC numbers guy. He tweets this out and says, Alabama just beat preseason AP poll number 13, South Carolina. Nobody is hotter than the Tide. So we may not remember what the team was ranked first week of the season, but if you're an SEC team and you do something remarkably noteworthy, we're going to remember for the rest of time, apparently.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Going on, I agree that we're rooting for whoever Utah is playing. Same thing. We need the Big 12 to look good. Cincinnati needs to look good. And if BYU takes care of business, it really doesn't matter. We're just going to, let's just beat them and move on.
Right, exactly. Let's actually just stick in the Big 12 here.
Yeah.
We got a couple of other ones. Obviously, along those same lines, we want UCF to beat Baylor. Puts Baylor at 4 conference losses, but it also gives BYU, like, it makes UCF maybe a little bit more, like, noteworthy if we can beat them on our final, like, game of the season. Like, they're not going to get any respect because they're UCF and they haven't, like, gone undefeated. But still, anything helps.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've got, like, Arizona at Colorado. We've played both of those teams, so it's 6s, right?
Yep.
I guess we want Colorado to win, so it puts Arizona at 4 conference losses. Like, I'm not really super concerned about that one. But West Virginia goes to Houston. Rich Rod, do you have a miracle that you can pull out of your butt? Can you please make this your Super Bowl? Please, because we don't play Houston. And and they are undefeated in conference play, or do they have one loss? They have one loss
Tech.
to Texas Tech. Okay? And we don't play them, so they are in control of their own destiny if we lose. So please, please, we need Houston to take a loss here.
Yes, we do. In the let me give you a scenario, Jessa, and
Hmm.
for everybody listening, this is why we need West Virginia to win. Okay, say we beat Texas Tech and lose to Cincinnati, and we end up with an 8-1 conference record. Cincinnati and Houston could both end up also at 8-1, or Cincy could even be 9-0. Okay, so that means Cincy's in because they beat us, or they're better than us in the record, and then it's us and Houston with 8-1. Okay, this is the exact scenario that got us kicked out of the conference championship game last year. Was some stupid tiebreaker that doesn't even matter and is a completely just hypothetical bullcrap. So we need West Virginia to beat Houston so that they have 2 conference losses, so that even if we lose a game out of these last 4, not saying that we will, but if we do, it gives us a game bump over Houston. So we need West Virginia to win so that we do not fall into the tiebreaker category if we drop 1 game. That would mean we'd have to lose 2 games in order to hit those tiebreakers. And I feel like that is way less probable. Still probable, like it's still possible, but it's way less probable than if Houston than it is of us winding up in a tiebreaker scenario should Houston win and we lose 1 game.
Yeah. Listen to Houston's wins so far.
Oh boy.
SF Austin, Rice, Colorado, Oregon State, barely by a field goal. They lost by
That's right.
24 to Texas Tech. They beat Oklahoma State. They beat Arizona by 3. And then they beat Arizona State by 8, which kind of started, I think, Arizona State's slide, or
Yeah.
continued it because they lost another one. But and then they play West Virginia this week, UCF, TCU, and Baylor. I don't know. They don't play Cincinnati, right?
Yep.
And they
They don't
don't
play
play
Cincinnati.
us,
They don't play us.
and they don't play Utah. So they need to drop a game
Yep.
because their schedule, they have lucked into a very easy schedule. So if not here, TCU and Baylor, I'm looking at you guys to take care of business. All
Yep.
right.
Yep. Just give them more losses. Give everybody more losses.
More losses.
There's also Oklahoma State at Kansas, but neither of these
Don't care.
doesn't matter. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
All right, Jessa, let's do it. Let's do it. We said we wouldn't talk about playoff stuff, but we're just setting up. We're setting up those future conversations. Okay. We said we wouldn't talk about it until after the TCU game. I think, right, is what we said.
Oh yeah.
Or after the Cincinnati game. But we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it, okay?
Mm-mm.
We're just going to talk about hypothetically, okay? We love this here. The SEC guys are just drooling.
Yeah.
They're just so happy right now. We're talking in hypotheticals. We are going to start talking about hypothetically what would need to happen in a hypothetical world, hypothetically, how BYU could hypothetically wind up in a hypothetical playoff, hypothetically, okay?
Hypothetically.
So let's just talk about a couple of these games that could hypothetically matter in a hypothetical playoff.
Yeah. If you
Hypothetical.
guys don't know, by the way, we're speaking in hypotheticals here. Like this
Yes.
is all, yeah. Okay. If that wasn't clear before, okay? But in this imaginary dreamscape that we have just played out, right? There are going to be teams from other conferences that are looked at and compared to BYU, right?
Yes.
And you have the stretch Y, and then you have logos like the Longhorns, okay? Yeah. And the committee just looks like they get like hypnotoad when they look at the Longhorns. They're like, Texas, even if they have 2 or 3 losses, okay? In fact, if they have 2 losses, even though those losses were Mississippi State in overtime and another team by 3 Kentucky by 3, they don't look at that. So Texas goes to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has 1 loss and Texas has 2, okay? The committee is going to keep looking at Texas until they have 3 losses. And maybe even then, they might still look at them.
They still might look at them. Then.
Yeah, they still might look at them because, they lost to powerhouse, perennial Vanderbilt, But even so, we want Texas to lose because the less the committee looks at a powerhouse like Texas, powerhouse, not powerhouse, blue blood logo, the more they have capacity to look at Big 12 teams.
Yep.
And Vanderbilt, they're already looking at them. They're not as much of a threat, I think, though.
Yes. And like you said, losing or if Texas wins, that keeps Vanderbilt from in the playoff to in the playoff.
Yeah.
Whereas if Vanderbilt wins, that knocks Texas from in the playoff to outside looking in. And so we want Vanderbilt to win.
Yep.
Another interesting game, I'm actually going to lay out 3 games for you, Jessa.
Love
We
it.
have 3 ACC teams, okay? 3 ACC teams that are ranked, 2 of which are going on the road, okay? Like we said, I don't know how it happened or why. Well, actually, I do know why. It's because of Clemson, Florida State, Miami. The ACC is above the Big 12 in like hierarchy, right? So the SEC gets first placement in everybody's heads. Big 10 close second, ACC far third, and then the Big 12 is like a far fourth, right? So we need ACC teams for the exact same reasons that you just laid out. We need ACC teams to have 2 losses or more. So SMU going to Miami. Please, SMU, do something cool, okay? Guy poking the stick, with the stick poking, like do something to SMU, okay? Same thing, okay, and probably even more so, like dude poking the stick to Virginia Tech, okay? Louisville at Virginia Tech. Please, Hokies, pull together. They've looked better after their coach got fired. Hopefully they can keep that up. And then Virginia at Cal. Cal actually has looked kind of decent this year. They've looked spicy and scary, so I think this could be one where Cal comes out and beats Virginia. Virginia has won, 3 overtime games in a row?
Yeah.
So all of the ranked ACC teams we need to lose. Miami, Virginia, Louisville all need to lose this week.
Yep. So that there's lots of 2-loss ACC teams. Again, in this hypothetical fantasy world where BYU's logo might be on a sheet of paper in front of people who put them in important games, we have a 0 in the loss column. So let's just bring it back to home. All right? We don't have to stress about it right now. But BYU just needs to win out, and we can enjoy being emotionally invested in these games.
Yep.
For that reason.
Yes, and guess what? If all of these games lose and everything goes the wrong way, BYU still completely controls its own destiny. No matter what happens this Saturday, BYU still has the opportunity to just go out and take and do whatever they need to do to get to the conference championship game, to get to the playoff. It's completely in their hands. There's no way that they'll get left out of the conference championship game or the playoff if they just win every single game. Okay, it's not that hard. We've done it already up until this point. Let's just do another 33% of the way. Okay, it's possible, but this gives us a little something fun to watch on Saturday, like you said.
Yeah, it's gonna be another great weekend. Stress-free. Last bye week was a lot of fun. Yeah, some good hate watches, all the things.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's gonna be awesome.
Jessa, what game are you most excited for this weekend? Just completely objectively. Most excited for.
Most excited for, completely objectively, honestly, Arizona State at Iowa State. I think, that's the game that I feel most confidently that I'm going to get the result I want in Iowa State winning.
Okay.
And I like Iowa State. I'll root for them. And I don't necessarily like Arizona State, so I'll root for them to lose. That's fine. That one I think is circled on my calendar. How about you?
Ooh, I'm honestly probably gonna go with Texas Tech at Kansas State.
I like it.
That's the one. Kansas State kind of surprised me last week. They absolutely housed Kansas at Kansas. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens. I do want Texas Tech to win, but I do want Kansas State to put up a fight. I want them to get after the quarterback. I want them to put up a lot of points. And I just love watching the teams that play BYU like a week before they play BYU, so we can kind of gauge the vibe. So
yeah. It's a scouting report, essentially, is what it is.
Exactly.
So, and then a hate watch shout out for Cincinnati at Utah. That'll be probably the most emotionally invested game for the week.
Absolutely, it will be. And again, check out the weekend watch guide. It will have all of these on there. It'll have little blurbs. Instead of being just little funny blurbs making fun of people, the blurbs will tell you who you need to root for so that BYU can move up in the rankings and stay in front of the other people in the conference. So this was awesome, Jess. This was fantastic. Let's have an amazing bye week, yeah?
Let's do it. Go Cougs!
Go Cougs, baby.